Well, good morning. It's a Thursday. It's not raining yet, but I think the rain's coming, which is great. We need it here in Salt Lake. The lawns are looking a little brown. So this is the third talk this week. There's been a theme here, a little bit of social media. I'm going to kind of circle back into this sort of the latter part of this talk, but I was reading something in one of the Esri publications, 𝐼𝐢𝐧𝐝, by Matt Lewin, who is a Canadian, works for Esri Canada. It's called Your Tech Innovation. I wanted just to read the first sentence to you, or the first paragraph. It says, one of the most common questions I get as a technology strategist is how do we communicate the value of our solution or promising technology, especially to executives who don't necessarily get technology? It's a really important question. I think as technologists broadly, and I think that one of my areas that I sort of focused on is how do we take technology and with new approaches and new thinking, bring that to a new audience? Is really that question. I think in the spatial world, we tend to think data, we tend to think geospatial mapping stuff, and we talk in those terms. But more often than not, people don't get it. The value of a map, for example, is generally lost on senior execs. So we work through these particular departments. In GIS's case, it's the GIS department. But how do you broaden that? It's always something I've spent a long time thinking this one through and watching it done well and watching it done quite poorly. So that question is a good one. And I'm looking over here because I've written some things down from quotes from other people, which I'm kind of going to address in this. So I think as we think to that question of getting in front of people and telling the story, that's really the story you're telling. That's the pitch, if you like. That's getting somebody interested in what you're doing. And that's where Matt Lewin's article is quite interesting. And I'll actually cover that in another talk. But if you're actually on the front end of the world of the business world of geospatial or technology in general, if you're a small technology company, you'll struggle with the same thing. You tend to talk about technology. One hopes, so there are really, in that business engagement, there are really three critical things to success. Number one is you've got the right product. In other words, you've got something that is solving a problem. And quite often, again, another conversation, you don't. You have a solution looking for a problem, or you think you've built an MVP, which is going to solve something. You've never really validated it. But you have to have the right product which solves a particular problem. The second one is talking to the right person. So you found that person in the organization that has that problem and is able to take action on that and buy your product or your services. So that's the second one. And then the third one is the pitch. And I think that, and that's really how you tell your story. That's much of what the Matt Lewin article is talking about. But let me just go back to that second one, the right person. One of the challenges of sales and marketing folks is getting to those right people, the personas. The people are actually in the organization that recognize what that problem is and have the ability to act upon that. And again, they can buy your product or your services. So it's a big deal. But one thing that's massively overlooked, I think, in that journey, well, overlooked, what sales folks want is they want warm leads. Marketing are meant to give the sales folks warm leads. That means someone that is not a cold call. It's not someone that doesn't know you. It's someone that has familiarity with you, your product. So it's that sort of pass over from marketing to sales. And then the sales people engage and they build relationships and sort of the magic happens, if you like. I think that's really where we have a big challenge particularly in the technology industry, because we can't necessarily find those right people. And again, we've spoken about cold calling being challenging. I was listening to a talk on this whole world by somebody on LinkedIn just today, and she said, before people decide what they think of your message, in other words, your pitch, they decide what they think of you. And she used the word empathy. So I'm going to social media here, as I mentioned earlier on. You have credibility, you have connections, you have empathy if you're within that community that I spoke about yesterday, within the social media world. Social media allows you to others to understand who and what you are. And that's a very big deal. So if you're using, I really like LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's a wonderful way to find that. And I'll do a separate talk on this. But you can find the right people in the right organizations with a problem. So you can do the research and you can find those people. But how do you engage with those people? You might be able to do all the work that you've done, but your approaches to those folks are still somewhat cold. It's important, I think, that you engage in social media, particularly if those people are active in social media, and engage with them at that sort of community level. Engage with them in a way where your content, their content alignment, your engagement with them is something that you build through social media. So, and even if you're not able to do that directly in social media, not part of your sort of community, so to speak, they're not connected to you in that language. If you've got a presence in social media and you reach out to somebody that doesn't know you, sometimes they're going to know you if they're part of your LinkedIn world, and they'll know some of the things, the content you've published, which is why personal brand is so important. But if they don't know you, the first thing they're going to do if you're reaching back to them is to look at you on LinkedIn. They're going to look at your history. They're going to look at your profile, the work that you've done, but they're going to look at the content you post and the things that you do. So I will always, anyone that reaches to me, I will always look them up, and I'll often look at their content. I want to know who they are and what they sort of, where they stand, what their values are, where they are in the world. You know, they're not, that you don't want to be talking to a stranger. And I think that that's the beauty of social media, is that you can have a presence that people can see and understand who you are. So whenever you reach out to people to engage in that initial conversation, be they someone that is part of your network and you're connected to and they follow your content, etc., or be it someone that you don't know, they've always got that place to come back to see who you are and understand you. So, you know, I spoke yesterday about how important it is to actually build that presence in social media from a sales and marketing perspective, and to get to those right people to then engage in that sort of pitch, which I really don't like the term, but, you know, to tell your story and hope that there's sort of a connection between the problem they've got and the solution you're providing. Social media is a wonderful way to do that. And Sales Navigator is a tool which I think is probably underutilized by folks and poorly used, because they still see it as this kind of way of just connecting people in a sort of a cold way. But if you build your social media presence and you use those type of tools like Sales Navigator, it means that most of those conversations are warm conversations. So that was my key point within this talk. Again, it's on that social media theme, but it is really trying to crack that nut of, sure, you've got a product that solves a particular problem. Sure, you've got a good pitch, but who are you talking to? And are you talking, when you approach them, is it a warm approach or a cold approach? Warm is always the best way to go. So there's my Thursday talk. Thanks for watching. Feel free to provide me any comments or thoughts on this. And again, if you like this, please follow me on LinkedIn. I do lots of these. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. And again, you'll get notifications when this stuff comes out. And thanks for watching.